Recently, I've seen a lot of people talking about Dragon Ball GT and whether it'll be in the game for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So I wanted to get my take on this, what characters I think are going to be in it, and whether I think it's going to be base roster or a DLC. But I wanted to do it with a visual representation from Dragon Ball Tenkaichi 4, which is the modded version of Tenkaichi 3. Now, this is kind of a cool game because you can jump in here and there's a ton of different characters that are added to the game from, you know, all different walks of life, GT, Super, all that different stuff that weren't originally in Tenkaichi 3, which I think is kind of a cool way to set up this video. So what we're going to do is kind of talk about some of the different characters I think are definitely going to make it in, and then we'll kind of give our take on whether I think it's going to be a DLC or base roster. So first and foremost, Goku GT, right? I mean, you can't have GT without having Goku GT. So interesting enough, I think this might be the first game we have 3 Kid Gokus. We'll have the original Kid Goku, we'll have Kid Goku GT, and then we'll have Kid Goku Daima if it ever gets like some sort of DLC and stuff like that, which is very interesting. But the real question here is what kind of forms are we going to get? So I definitely think base and Super Saiyan 4. Super Saiyan 4 for sure, right? It's too iconic of a form and a transformation to not be in the game. They've obviously like added it to fighters and they've added it to Xenoverse 2. So it's like, it's obviously something that a lot of people have mentioned and the company still cares about, right? They're adding it to games actively. So it makes sense that they would be in here. The real thing is, I don't know if they add Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 3, even though Super Saiyan 3 is the super iconic, you know, version of Goku. I don't know in comparison to, at least in the GT spectrum, is it more iconic than Super Saiyan 4, right? Because we obviously have Super Saiyan 3 adult Goku. He's already confirmed for the game as a transformation. So I definitely could see them skipping with Goku base into Super Saiyan 4. And if not, just having Super Saiyan 4, but I don't think they skip base. But if they do, there's a reason why they may do that. And that's in the form of Gogeta, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Now, Pan is kind of a controversial one. I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, bro. I feel like people hate Pan a little bit, at least GT. I definitely think that if it comes to a point where it's only a handful of characters that can make it in, and let's just pretend it's a DLC, and let's just pretend it's only one round of DLC, right? Let's not pretend that, you know, there's the second round where some of these other characters could definitely be added further down the line. Let's say it's the first batch of DLC for GT. If it comes down to, I think Pan gets chopped off. I think she's very important to like the story and stuff like that. But if it comes to like maybe 4 or 5 characters, she's definitely on the chopping block, because I think Goku is definitely going to be in their Super Saiyan 4. Gogeta is going to be in their Super Saiyan 4. It kind of begs the question of whether Gogeta Z is going to be in the game, but I for sure know that Gogeta has to be in there. If there's any kind of GT thing, he's too iconic of a character. Fighters obviously represents him. And it's kind of more of a question of what type of character is he going to be, or how is he going to be, right? So is he going to be fused from Vegeta and Goku, Super Saiyan 4 into Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, or is he going to be his own pickable character, right? Is there going to be a scenario where he just, like, you just click him and that's it? Now, that could obviously be a question for fusions in general, which I plan on making a very similar video about fusions, and he's obviously going to be part of it. But I do think that there's a very real realm of possibility that Gogeta is played a little bit differently in Super Saiyan 4, and he is just like has maybe a cinematic at the beginning where the two obviously fuse into him. I definitely think that's a real possibility if they start cutting a little closer to the chopping block and only adding a handful of characters, but I definitely don't think he's one of them. Now, Goten, he is one. He's gone. I'm not going to talk too much on Goten. I love Goten, but this version of Goten is not going to be in the game. Now, Oob's a kind of interesting character. Let's just say, bro, like 4 or 5 characters, I think Majin Oob can make it. I don't think Kid Oob or Teen Oob or, you know, any of the other versions of Oobs make it. I think he does. And at the very least, I think they could have a transformation, even though they're technically at different parts of their life here. I definitely think Oob could transform into this if they're kind of going that route. But I definitely think for sure, GT's going to have Majin Oob. He's obviously already being played in Kakarot, and he's kind of a huge part of like the ending of Z. So I think it's kind of one of those things where I think he would definitely be in it for GT. Let's move on to Vegeta, though. Vegeta is interesting. Like, I think Super Saiyan 4 for sure, but I don't think base. I don't think Super Saiyan 1 or 2. I feel like base Super Saiyan 1 and Super Saiyan 2 I never see in the game for GT. I don't see in any games, bro. It's like he's gone. He wiped off of the face of the earth. It's almost like they're just like, nah, he was always Super Saiyan 4. You know, for a big part of it, I guess he was. But yeah, the funny thing is I just never see it. I think his fit's kind of cool. I mean, the fact that he doesn't have the mustache in here is, you know, better. Better than it was. But yeah, I would like to see the whole shebang from him, but I definitely think Super Saiyan 4, and I do honestly think that they're going to cut out these other forms. I just don't think at this point in time Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 is really that big of a thing, and maybe we get base into Super Saiyan 4 just for the fact that they want a cool transformation. But other than that, I think they just go Super Saiyan 4. And that kind of begs the question whether they go base into Super Saiyan 4 for Goku and then fuse into Gogeta. So let's go ahead and move into some villains down here. They're in a kind of different subsection. So first and foremost, Baby Vegeta. Baby Vegeta is kind of a cool character, right? So Super Baby 2 is definitely going to be in the game. I think for sure he's going to be in the game if it was a DLC for GT. He's in fighters. It just makes sense for him to be in there. Now the other question is, again, with the transformations or like base forms and stuff like that, Baby Vegeta, or Super Baby 1, I like these forms, dude. I think they're cool as hell. Like, imagine beating someone's ass as Baby Vegeta. It looks cool as shit. And then Super Baby also looks cool as well. But if I had to kind of roll my dice, I would say Super Baby 2 is definitely going to be in it. Now, the real thing is I would like to see Great Ape Baby, dude. I mean, they're adding giants. You're going to have all kinds of other Great Apes. Why not Baby? Why not Great Ape Baby? You know what I mean? They definitely need to add that. So for sure, Super Baby 2, and with the hope of Great Ape Baby, and with the absolute, like, you know, wishing on a star, some of these other babies, like Baby Vegeta into Super Baby 1. I would really like to see, like, Goten Baby or Gohan Baby. That'd be dope as hell. But that, I don't think they're doing that. I think they're going to have a limited amount of slots, and unfortunately, they're going to get chopped. So, Super 17, though. Bro, I don't know. I like this character. I actually do. So, the other question is, we have to kind of confirm Android 17Z first, and technically he's not confirmed, which I'm 100% sure that dude's gonna be in, but gonna have to confirm him before we get to Super 17. So there's kind of like 2 steps that need to happen before Super 17 technically in, and he's gonna be his own character, right? So he's not gonna be like, you know, you're not gonna have 2 17s fused into it to make him. He's gonna be his own thing. Maybe it's a cinematic, that'd be kind of cool. Well, I don't think he's going to be in the game either way. For some reason, Super 17 is just like thrown under the rug. He's just like, nah, we don't talk about him. For some reason, I don't think they really like him. And if they're going for chopping block and they already have like 2 villains, they're probably going to go Super Baby into Omega Shenron, right? So they're going to skip these other 2 Shenrons. Now, the interesting part is if they did want a couple fodder, I definitely see the Shenrons making it. They're diverse enough. They're kind of cool. You know, they're kind of got that twin flame type of thing going, fire and ice. I think they're kind of a cool character for fodder. Like if you're trying to add a couple of different characters to kind of boost, like, you know, some different things. Like, you know, not everybody wants to play the main baddie and stuff like that. They kind of want to play some of these other guys. So Shenron, Omega Shenron, he's definitely going to make it in. I would almost say for sure just Omega. I don't think his first one's going to go in. I don't know. I don't like when I think of GT, I think of Omega Shenron. I don't really think of the first one. I almost completely forget of this version of him. So I think for sure he's just going to be Omega Shenron, and then that's just going to be it. So we kind of look back at it though. So like we have Omega Shenron, we have probably Super Baby 2, and then we have like, you know, Goku, Vegeta, Oob, and then Gogeta. I think Pan gets, now that I look at it, Pan's she's whacked off the list if they're only going with like 4 or 5 people. So yeah, I think Gogeta's kind of a turn in with the Goku and Vegeta, and then Oob obviously comes in at a later date. So let's go ahead and just like play as one of these characters. I kind of want to play as Baby. Just kind of be interesting here. So let's go ahead and play with Baby. I'll play with him at base. So let's go ahead and talk about whether I think it's going to be a DLC or it's going to be roster for the base of GT, right? So I think there's kind of an interesting take that we could actually see some of the characters on base roster as kind of like a tease, or at least a kind of like, hey, by the way, we see GT. And then we could have like a future, whatchamacallit, DLC for some of the actual characters from that. Like, so like some of the characters that may get wiped off, like maybe even Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and Omega Shenron. Maybe they just decide to do debate, like if they wanted to add like a bigger version of GT. So maybe they do like the base version of Vegeta and all of his forms, obviously, and then they could do, he's cooking me, bro. Then they could do Goku and his base stuff, and then they do like, you know, Super Vegeta or something like that to kind of show you, hey, we're paying attention here a little bit. We're obviously going to add this at some other point, and then they could add like some of the other shit. You know what I mean? Damn it, I did that twice and I didn't mean to. Take that. But it'd be kind of interesting to see like basically how they do. I think the bulk of it will probably most likely be DLC, like if not all of it. The kind of adding it in as a little like tidbit and stuff like that would be very, very cool, just to kind of see that they like, you know, at least give a shit. But I feel like they have so much to add in terms of like the game. Like obviously they're doing a lot of the tournament power stuff, and it just seems like, you know, their main focus, at least from the different trailers that they had, is like super into DBZ. Like I don't even, like it almost seems like the original Dragon Ball is kind of like not even in here yet. We haven't really seen any glimpse besides like technically Master Roshi, but even Master Roshi is technically in his super variant, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing, I feel like, for where the game's at and who they're going to be actually adding to the game in the future. So I think it's definitely going to be in the game at some point. It's just whether they add it all at once or they add it as a DLC. I think it's just the main kind of point. I would like to see a base roster type of thing into like a DLC. I think we'll actually get more characters that way and a little bit more variety and a little bit more anticipation. You know, at least at that point, we'll be able to kind of see it and be like, hey, that's dope as shit that they are actually paying attention to that. And we have a handful of GT characters to kind of play around with.